This is the first race in I don't know how many weeks where I didn't kill myself the day before by doing some huge ride on the road in the middle of a 4-day block or doing some huge squat and deadlift session. Hey, cycling community, this is Steve, Grusis the Cycling Greek. One of the things that I mentioned at the beginning of these Zwift race videos, because I distribute these videos after I make them to people who haven't seen them before, is that I am 69 years old and I've been subject to atrial fibrillation for the last 9+ years. I was sufficiently rested and well warmed up for this race. This race took place about a few days after what I call the big adjustment to our race scores. I used to be around the 350 race point range where I'd race with a easy group below 350 points, gain a few points, then I'd race with a harder group, lose a few points, and I was going back and forth. In fact, a couple of videos ago, I made a video called Tale of Two Races, where I raced the same race course in that same week, but I was in different categories. This was an after-work race for me on a Monday. It was a little longer than what I think the average race course is here. It's about a little over 16 miles and has almost 1,000 feet of climbing. Most of the climbing comes at the end of each of the 2 laps. This profile came from my Strava after it was downloaded after the race. I have to figure out how I can find these profiles before the race so I can figure when I can use my Feather Power-Up, and Feather Power-Ups were used in this race. Jumping ahead a bit, we started one of the minor climbs. Now, this is a race of attrition, and we're already down to about 13 in our front group. It is here with this rider from South Korea, and I can't pronounce his name because he's not using any characters that I'm familiar with, so I'll call him Dot because that's all that appears on his position data on the right side graphics. I scoot up to try and bridge to him, but I'm doing over 300, almost 400 watts, and then I just back off because he's still going strong, and I'm just going to rely on some others to help pull me up. We have only gone about 4 miles, and we still have a little over 12 miles to go. I also look at the graphics on the top of the screen and see that the elevation count's only 211 feet, so we still have quite a bit of climbing to go. There's no need for me to push it. Dot has about 3 seconds on us at the moment. I don't know what his age is because he doesn't list it on his profile, but looking at his picture, I'm going to guess that he's in his early 20s. Currently, there are 12 in our chase group. There's Dot that's up ahead, so that's 13, and that puts me close to being in the top half for a finish. At a minimum, that's where I want to end up. Jumping ahead, this is the start of the climb that appears toward the end of each lap. Many have activated their Feather Power-Up. This is a long climb. I waited. However, it's going to run out before I get to that first step. Now, if you look at that little insert map and then look at the data below, Dot is now about 13, now 14 seconds, 15 seconds ahead of us. I was climbing at over 300 watts, and then as I got closer to the step, I started to get down to about 250 watts. That's my way of saying I was starting to run out of gas. I'm trying to get up to those that surged away from me. A couple of those guys saved their Feather Power-Up, and now are trying to surge away from the rest of us, and seem to be doing a pretty good job. I've got some ugly face going on right now because I need to get on their wheels before we hit that descent, and thank goodness I'm able to do that. Otherwise, I would have lost contact and I would have spent the rest of the race trying to stay away from those behind me. Including Dot, who's now about 29 seconds ahead of us, we're down to 9 riders. I'm in the top half, at least for the moment. I still have over a lap to go, and I know that the critical point for me is when I hit that big climb again that we just finished. Am I going to be able to stay up with these guys? Pretty much all I'm thinking about now is that big climb at the end of this last lap. There's others in my group, however, that are thinking about trying to get away now. One of those is Brindled Pancake from the United States. I see this as a dangerous move, and I spend a lot of watts, more watts than I want to try to get up to him. Everyone else is 1, 2, and 3 seconds behind me. I finally connect, and he keeps on the gas. I finally make it up to him and just hang on his wheel, hoping that some of the others are going to be dropped. Pancake drops his speed and takes a few seconds, but everyone else connects. As the others scream by us, I'm now concerned about a counter, and I jump to get on their wheels. While I'm thinking about that last climb, it may be that most everyone else is thinking about getting up to Dot, who's now about 52 seconds ahead of us. We are now approaching about 1/3 of the race to go. I have a draft power-up. Of course, I'd rather have an arrow. I'm going to use it on this climb, hoping it's going to help me. I figure someone's going to try and make a move to try and get separated toward the top of the climb. And looks like I was right. That's 51-year-old Sam Dick from Canada, 38-year-old Zach Machenzie from the United States trying to take part. Since I activated my draft boost, I make every effort to stay on wheels so I take full advantage of it. While the attackers are able to get a 1-second separation, it all comes back together. We now jump to the final major climb, and all I have is a draft boost. It's also raining on us. I have no idea the effect of the rain on our avatars. Looks like some of the others were fortunate enough to have the feather boost, which I understand cuts about 25% of your weight. Youngjun Kim from South Korea and 31-year-old Evan McDougall from Canada get a 1-second gap as I've activated my drafting boost, which isn't helping me too much right now. We get over this small step, and now I do what I can to catch up to the others, but I don't have a lot of gas left. So right now I'm looking at the graphics on the right, and I see that somebody's about 21 seconds behind me. That's the closest person. It's 2.3 miles to go, lots of climbing. I'm an old guy. I can blow up and lose even more positions. So the current situation is that I am in 9th place and I'm being chased by McDermott, who's about 23 seconds behind me. He's been doing yeoman's work as he's been solo for quite a while. All I'm doing right now is I'm keeping an eye on my watts per kilogram and his watts per kilogram and doing my best to make sure that mine are greater most of the time. And look at that. I have a feather power up. No more climbing. As it turns out, I made it to the finish in front of McDermott by 28 seconds, keeping my 9th place. That's the top half for me. I'm happy. It also raised my race score from 309 to 313. I hope you enjoyed this video and you got something out of it. As always, remember, comment, like, subscribe. The Cycling Greek.